Brad, it's lovely to see you this morning. Thank you so much for having a cup of coffee with me over the internet to have a chat about prepping. Now, you and I have been friends for a very long time, which is why I know that you are very, very knowledgeable about this stuff and why I've invited you to chat about it. So, good to see you.
Okay. Thank you, Karen. That's very knowledgeable. I think it's a pretty big term, but anywho.
Oh no, I think let's be real, you are very knowledgeable. You've
Well, I've been doing it for a long time.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, yeah. And there's a lot of, negative talk about prepping and people talking about tin hats and things like that. But, we both know that there's a lot of unrest in the world at the moment. There's a lot of uncertainty, yeah.
I think a lot of it, yeah. And I don't think there's any more uncertainty in the world than there ever has been. What I think it is that it's our instant access, and the fact that we live in a society now where all your news is instant.
Mm,
Um, all your news is very dressed up, so it has to be stimulating
yeah,
and very short. Our attention span is 3 seconds.
yeah, true.
Everything is instantaneous. So, like the last big disaster, you probably can't tell you because we're already talking about the next one.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
we've developed this overrating in modern society. It's fear. Everything's fear. You've got
yeah.
to be scared. So
It's good.
I think the world's know we're closer on a lot of levels, but we've always been in turmoil and there's always been uncertainty in the planet. I think because we live in such an instant society where everything's instant, people have forgotten that you need to prepare the road.
Yeah,
You don't know what's around the next corner. So I think
yeah,
that's where people are becoming, they're seeing through the veneer of modern society with all its technological advances and everything like that is only as thin as the electricity supply to whatever computer it is that's running everything that controls your life.
yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, I
Mm.
think that's, yeah.
We could almost go down a rabbit hole right there, but we won't. Let's stay on track. So, because I'm very tempted to do that. I watched this great program on Netflix. Maybe we'll talk about that another time. The whole electrical thing. You've mentioned disasters. You've mentioned electricity. That things can change. I'm interested. What got you into thinking about sustainability and prepping? I guess, for want of a better term.
Like, I grew up on, like, we've been friends for 50 years. Um, I grew up in northeastern Victoria on a small dairy farm, and life was, I'm not going to say hard.
No.
It was hard for everybody, but I mean, so we lived through Ash Wednesday. We had to take time off school to live through Ash Wednesday to protect the house. Droughts come and go, things happen. But as a young man in the 80s and 90s on a rural farm in Australia, nobody was coming to help you. Like, nobody came to help you. You relied on yourself and your
Yeah.
neighbours. So that's, I'm talking 40 years ago.
Mm,
That taught me.
yeah.
If you can't put your hand on it and you need it, you don't have it.
That's right.
And so the way of life of a small holding farmer, and it's always been the way, is you don't know what's coming in the future. So, like, it's like that adage that I always use about hunting. You're going hunting for rabbits, but you're armed for bear because you don't know what the future holds. And
Yeah.
that's really, really apparent. It was really, really apparent growing up because, Jesus, we had no money. Um, so, like the monsters, like, oh, I'll just go and buy I'm going camping. I'll go and buy a tent. That wasn't a part of it. If you didn't have it, you didn't have it.
Yeah.
So as things came, you learned to look at things saying, hey, hang on. I had that scenario where this broke and I used that to fix it. So next time I see one of them, I'll keep it
Yeah.
because I see, like, I understand that It's all well and good saying that I can get you and stuff like that, but I live here. It's over there. I've got to get it. It's got to come here. And in the downtime, so that was a fact of life growing up. And
Yeah.
seasonal stuff. Like we ate fruit and veggie, fruit from our orchard when it was in season
Yeah.
because it was free.
Yeah. That's right.
It builds on that. It builds on that. Anyway, again, I've got to keep on track because I could disappear in a rabbit hole and say why we've got to the point that we are. And it's a combination. So at the start, it was just a case of the realistic review of if I don't have it and I need it, tough. If you don't have it, you don't have it.
Mm.
So when you put that into like really basic things like milk and bread, and then you apply that across all the aspects of your life. So you start, like without water, and that, I mean, it ties into something else that we were going to talk to about is what people say, what you can do to get into the preparedness mindset is that what can I control now that will be advantage tomorrow?
Yeah.
And what is, and then you get into your priorities. So the first priority forever in any prepared situation is water.
That's right.
It's the first thing that people don't think about, but it's the most important thing because without water, you're dead in 3 days.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what scenario. If you don't have water, you are dead in 3 days.
Yeah. And clean water.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So it's really your childhood, your upbringing, and you've gained a lot of skills because of the way you've grown up on the land.
And our generation too. There's a generational thing. So I'm Generation X, which is they call us the feral generation, and it's true. We were out before the sun came out. We didn't come home until the sun went down. If you went home, you got a job. Like it wasn't you didn't go home because your mum and dad pissed with you. You didn't go home because you got a fucking job. And it wasn't. It's not like modern days where we go, oh, I gave my child a job and he mowed the lawns. No, if you got a job, it was getting the hay in. It was cutting enough firewood for the winter. Like they were jobs. They were real jobs. So we would disappear.
Yeah.
Always jobs that you had to do, but you didn't hang around when you had nothing to do because you got something to do. So we would disappear, which made us very, very self-reliant and able to put up with ourselves in our own company. So
Yeah.
we didn't need mobs of people around us, and you overcome things as they happen. And then you take that forward by 20 years or 30 years or 40 years, the same situations apply. We're getting different input and we're getting the information in a different way, but you always revert to, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So, and 40, 50 years down the track, you realise that all of the people that said they're going to be there and that your tax money is going to help you and this government organisation is going to come in and in the event of, and you look back because they tell you this repeatedly and repeatedly, but a normal person, your listeners are the same. They might not be as far down the rabbit hole as me, but they'll see and they're picking up on it. They don't do what they say they're going to do. And
That's right.
after 50 years, you realise, hang on, sure, I've got this insurance. Sure, I've got $400 million in the bank, but it's all electronic. And if you haven't got your hand on it, look what happened during our last 4 year ago social experiment that we did.
Yeah.
All of the things that we said would never happen in Australia overnight.
Yeah.
Overnight.
Yeah. And even just that bleep that happened a few months ago and people couldn't use their credit card machines and the system in the supermarket and buy their food.
So because we're close in age, so remember like we were in high school when they brought out debit cards.
Yeah.
Everybody ran to get a debit card. The Australia card, that was another great one, like we're going to give you this ID card and we don't want that because back then we wouldn't stand for half of the crap we have to stand for today.
Yeah.
And they went, oh, well, we'll give you this number, this tax file, which is what they wanted to do all along so that they've got us. And I mean, the way that they've driven technology to surveil us for our own protection, even the most indoctrinated or mainstream person now is starting to say, hang on, they don't though. Like they tell us they're going to do these things for us and look after us and make us safe and all of this, but it just seems like, hang on, I'm everything's going out. All my money, all my rights, all my freedoms seem to be going away, and nothing's coming in.
Yeah.
So as a society, we're waking up to that.
Yeah.
Um, and this obviously gives rise to people starting to ask these questions and this interest in prepping. And then prepping's a whole industry as well. Like there's like anything in life, some
Yeah.
people got a hold of it and they can make money out of it, like telling people what to do. Doing
Mhm.
this, I guess, for money.
And really, this is not something that's new. I mean, I
Absolutely.
remember as a kid, your mum, when there was that glut of fruit, the jams being made, the preserves, all the things.
And if I've got it, because like my orchard, has got mainly apples.
Mhm.
So I'm going to make, apple puree, apple pies, all that, and you distribute that because you've got potatoes.
Mm.
Because in the summer, that like down there, old Mr. Barton, he grows watermelons to feed his stock, but we get some every year.
Mm.
But he gets out. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
the and preparedness was instilled in rural communities. There was all like um, where we grew up in northeastern Victoria, across the road and down a little bit, there was an old lady. She was in the 90s back then when I was a teenager. And I used to go and mow her lawn. She raised 13 children. And every time I went down there, I'd come home with a bottle of preserves or
Mm.
something that she's made for me to take home. And that is like a currency, you
Yeah.
know, wasn't expected. It just
No.
happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, the mindset behind that is it's cool. Let's hope that we never need this.
Yeah.
But I might want to eat a peach in the middle of winter. It's only today that we've lost, and very quickly in our lifetime, like the
Mm.
seasonal vegetables.
Mm.
We have two generations that have no concept that you don't actually get to eat strawberries in the middle of summer. In the normal world, it's only because of globalization and the fact that we can fly these things in from who knows where to
Mm.
here that we can have it. Well, all of that's there's a very real chance that all of that's going to go away soon.
Mm.
Anyway, that's another.
Yeah, and it could. I mean,
But
if there's so
that
many things.
it's whole preparedness into community because personal experience. Yes, I've been a prepper. Um, the theory behind prepping with us is that it's just to smooth out the road. It's there's so many indicators about so many potential threats, and when I say threats, it's just to the way of life that we have today. And I don't know if the systems in place, like the organised systems in place that we have as a society, are going to work because I keep seeing evidence of them not working. Plus, I've been to some pretty horrendous natural disasters. I was involved in East Timor. I was one
Yeah.
of the first tractors that actually went on the ground over there once they let civilians in. And during the course of my career as a linesman, dealing with natural bushfires and floods and stuff, putting things back. So I've got a
Yeah.
bit of experience in that as to the discrepancy between what we are told as a a minion, a taxpayer,
Yeah.
through the media, if you can call it
A
that,
member of the public.
and
Yep.
what actually happens. So I've seen it in action, and there's a discrepancy there.
Mm.
So that's where our theory comes from. That's
Yeah.
because nobody's going to come and knock on my door and say, "Hey, I see you've run out of toilet paper. Here's a roll of toilet paper." We've seen how society acts not that long ago.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's
That's right.
a lot of people are starting to just ask a question. Like,
Yeah.
why did that actually happen that way? Why did that's not what they told us.
It's interesting. I've seen on TV just a bit of a flash that we're coming up to the 50-year anniversary of Cyclone Tracy in Darwin. Now, I'm quite a bit older than you,
Yeah,
and I remember as a little girl that happening.
yeah,
And so Christmas Day, Darwin was wiped out. Now, in this country that we know and love and have always called the lucky country and felt lucky to be here, even back then, 50 years ago, people behaved in really appalling ways, and that is in un-Australian ways, because when they were faced with such trauma and such, went into survival mode, people did some pretty weird stuff. Um, and that's something that in the normal course of life, I know for somebody like me, I don't like to think about people behaving in unpleasant ways.
Horrendous. And I agree. I'm actually rocking a couple of lest we forget flags on my car at the moment because we've forgotten. We've forgotten as a society. We've forgotten a lot of the lessons that we learned.
Mm.
And what you're saying is true. In the 1970, yeah, there was some people that did some horrendous things. We've both lived in Darwin. We both know the history.
Yeah,
However, I would argue that in 1971 or whenever it happened, the ratio to good people to honourable people would have been a lot better than today.
yeah,
Because we live in an instant society now. Nobody thinks about tomorrow because everything's instant through the phone.
yeah,
Like we're so reliant on technology.
yeah, exactly.
Um, and some of the cracks are appearing in because of a lot of the scenarios, and I'm talking big picture scenarios that we've gone through. The war in Ukraine,
Yeah,
the war, the potential, the war that's brewing in the Middle East. So we're told this is what's happening, this is what's happening, this is what's happening. And then we
yeah,
see things on the other side, and people are actually starting going, hang on, is it really? Like we've lost so much trust
yeah,
in, and I'm not just talking in Australia, I'm talking globally. Look at how everybody reacted to Donald Trump getting in. I mean, it's not even our country.
yeah.
People are losing their minds here.
Mm, that's right.
And the the world model that we've been operating on since 1945 has changed. People people are aware of that. Like globalization has changed. And people aren't stupid. We're very dismissive of big groups of people because the herd mentality and we tend to do well, we've seen, we've all
Yeah, we
seen.
do. We do go with the flow. The whole metronome thing where everybody starts to move in the same direction just through the
Yeah.
power of numbers. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah. But we've seen like natural disasters. Are they getting bigger, or is it just our awareness of it getting bigger? Yeah, with this instant again, everybody's got a recorder in their pocket. Everybody's got a potential news device in their pocket,
Mm.
and so yeah, we can get a lot of information. Is it good information? So now the arguments around like the misinformation bill that they're trying to push through, the
Yeah.
way they're doing these things, people look at them whether you agree with the way that they do it or they're not doing it. You think, is that right?
Yeah.
You know, so people are losing. Well, not even losing faith. People are just asking questions.
That's right. They are asking questions, and that's always a good thing to question. It doesn't mean that you are going to go this way or that way, but to question is it's an indication of intelligence, I think.
So what kick again? Because I've been a lot of my preparedness personally
Yeah.
came from doing without as a young man. So, like,
Mhm.
I've got a few issues, like a lot of issues, but like I've got a big bucket of socks because
Yeah.
I always used to get my father's hand down socks, and they
Yeah.
always had holes in them. So I've got a psychological issue about socks. I've got a big pile of black socks, and whenever I get a hole, I throw that sock away, but I keep the other one because I've done without, and then I'm married. Stupid shit like that.
Yeah.
But I also know because I've done a lot of remote work, you get out into a place that's removed from modern conveniences and you don't have a razor blade, you don't have a sock, you realize then, hang on, the veneer of modern society is only as thick as everything that goes into the supply chain to bring it from where it was manufactured to you.
Yeah.
But when you start thinking about it like that, and you think about, hang on, so there's a boat that's got to pick this up. There's a truck that's got to pick this up. There's that price of, and you start putting the dots, you go, hang on, this is a huge system. So before, a pair of Blundstone boots was made in Hobart.
Yeah.
So we'd kill the animals here in Australia. We had leatherwork tanneries would tan the leather. The leather would be processed. There'd be a synthetic manufacturer that's making elastic. All the products that would go to Hobart would be assembled, and then the boots would be distributed. And back when I was a kid, the grand total of $40, you'd get a pair of Blundstone boots that would last you for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Today, the leather comes from Chile or South America.
Hmm.
It's tanned in India or somewhere where they've got really shitty safety standards. The leather then goes to Taiwan or Vietnam or wherever the latest, Blundstone shop is, factory. Put together there, then it's put on a boat, then it goes to, let's say, Perth, and then it's distributed from there.
Yeah.
All of those things have failed at one stage in the last couple of years, and people have seen that.
There's a
So,
lot of steps and opportunities for things to fall down, hey?
yeah, and then you can't fix nothing's fixable.
Mm.
We don't, we live in, everything's designed obsolescence.
Yeah.
I'm driving a 30-year-old car because it's the only thing that I've got a chance of fixing. I'm not stupid. I'm not a mechanic, but simple basic stuff.
Yeah.
Well, you can't do that with a modern car, and I know because I tried it. I bought a brand new car, and we got burnt because everything is plug a computer in,
Yeah.
and there's another computers. Computers were meant to, like our generation, it was meant to make life easy.
Mm.
Okay, it did on the surface, but it didn't underneath because there's no. We've got this illusion of instant control. Everything's like my whole um, situation, my whole surroundings can be controlled through this electronic device, which is great when it works.
Yes, when it works, and it doesn't always.
Electricity. Everything today relies on electricity.
Mm.
People like living in the cities and built up areas. And I think like the consciousness, people are starting to wake up. So we've been sold no, let me be nice. There's a push for this net zero.
Yeah.
Everything to go to clean electricity. It's a fantastic concept. It's
It
a, a,
is.
it's, a, it's an amazing delusion. It's a wonderful theoretical goal. It can't be done practically. It
Not
can't.
anytime soon.
Well, it's just a simple fact. We
Mm.
can't. I was a high voltage linesman, as you know. I worked for the State Electricity Commission of Victoria back in the day, back when the electricity system was actually maintained.
And
And then
functional.
I worked in it with the transition to privatisation, and I've seen how our infrastructure has been raped, for a better word.
Mm.
Just used and used and used, never maintained. Everything's band-aided. Well, simple maths. If we go to Albanese's net zero, how are you going to get the power from where you make it? First, we can't make it because we don't have the facilities to make it. And people are waking up to the fact that wind is a farce. A wind turbine causes more carbon footprint to build it than it will ever give back. It just
Yeah.
can't. The fact of the unreliability, the fact it's never on the right time when it's producing, the fact that we have no reliable way of storing it in such volumes, all of these points people can debate, but the facts are we can't. And we don't have the technology to do it for a cost-effective way.
Yeah.
People, even if they don't understand the concept of it, they're starting to ask the sort of, hang on. And then the next step of that is that everything in modern society is controlled by electricity. So if you live in a city, your water, your food, your heating and cooling, your lighting, your sewage, Everything is controlled by electricity.
Yeah.
And now we don't have it. What do?
It would
Can't
create madness, wouldn't it?
you can't get fuel, you can't get toilet paper. How do you alleviate that? Well, instead of buying 2 rolls of toilet paper, I buy 40 rolls of toilet paper, and I always buy more than I use.
Mm.
So
So
another point that
so
we
f
were talking about is how do you get started in it? Is it like you buy one extra?
yeah.
You know, and you where am I gonna spend my money? Do I need an extra air fryer, or do I need maybe some bottled water and maybe a 20-litre drum of petrol in the garage just in case?
Yeah.
It can be very daunting.
Yeah, but it can be simple as well, can't it? Because it doesn't necessarily have to be, I have to support a family of 5 for the next
Ne
5 years. It can really be about getting over the hump where there's just say, for example, like, I mean, you're in WA, so if there's a flood and the roads go out and the trucks aren't gonna get, deliveries through to the supermarkets, there's a time frame for people who say live in Perth where they need to be able to feed their family for that week or 2 and not be under pressure because the supermarket shelves aren't full.
Absolutely. And another reason why, in our family it's such an important thing, as you know, your listeners won't know, we lived for quite a number of years remotely. So we did, approximately 10 years in Weipa, which is right at the top of Australia. So we would get our like, we had a supermarket, but as you can imagine, the prices were ridiculous.
Mm,
The food during the wet season would only come in once a month on a barge. We would do big orders because it's a month, and you don't know what's going to be in the supermarket. You don't know what's going to get through this month or this week. So you bought, I wouldn't say in bulk, but you bought enough to get you through. And if next month's a lean month, well, we can stretch through.
mm,
Um, and when you start, it's not about end of the world. We're living in a bunker 30 years.
yeah.
I'm eating spam, which is quite funny because I've got a bit of an addiction. Every time it's on special, I buy spam, but that's just me. But yeah, you continue from that, and people also from I'm trying to use a big word, from a community-based thing, is that when you think about it, if you can look after yourself just a little bit, that frees up the really important stuff for the people that like the people that have really messed up, and that frees up resources for them.
Yeah.
Next stage to that is that, like, when you've been doing it for, sorry, not for as long, but when you get into, like, we recently came into a financial part. We paid our house, which was huge, right?
Mm,
So for the first time in our life, we were debt free, which allowed us some spare cash to make some changes to our house. We
yeah.
did some remodeling and we put in a big pantry. So we were able to go to the next level. But in that, with our local community, we've been able to help people. Well, we became aware of a neighbour who had a bike accident. He was doing it rough. He's the main breadwinner, da da da. So
Yeah.
without any big song and dance, we were able to, drop off a 20-kilo bag of rice. We process a lot of, I do hunting, so we process a lot of meat, some canned meat, some staples. No
Mm,
big deal. No breaking of the bank.
yeah.
Just went and put a package together, discreetly dropped it off. See, to me, that's far more tangible
Mm,
than saying, "Oh, ring this number. Oh, get in contact with this government department. Oh, go and get your tax money back through some relief because you've got to put it." Just go and give the people some food. Let them get on with their life.
yeah. Not have to jump through hoops. And I mean, that builds community and a sense of um, belonging, and there's so many good things that come from that, even for the person who's the beneficiary on one occasion, because of their own experience, they're going to feel so affirmed. And when the boot's on the other foot, or if they have the opportunity to pass that on, they will because they've experienced that themselves.
And you can't teach that. You can't, like, we can't, as a modern society, we're trying to legislate,
Mm,
like, "Oh, I'm going to use your tax money and we're going to send it to the Ukraine and I'm going to give it to this group." Well, I guess that sounds great. It's kumbaya.
mm,
The world's a big melting pot and we're all going to get along. Well, it's not true though. It doesn't. Reality's not like that. So we're thinking on a global level, which is wonderful, great. very philanthropic or whatever it is, the big word. But the person who lives next door to me is doing it really, really hard. But I don't know because I'm too busy looking at my computer because I've never bothered talking to them because I've got my head in this. Because what Elon Musk says on the other side of the planet is more important than what my neighbour's going through because I've
Yeah.
never bothered to ask.
Mm.
People are waking up to it.
So from your perspective, community is very important
It's
in
everything.
terms. Yeah.
It's everything because the modern technological society has us all as individuals connected through an electronic app. Look at couples that go to the restaurant and they're sitting on opposite sides of the table with their phone in their. Jesus Christ! Oh, look at this! Why don't you talk about what you did? Well, talk about your kids. Talk about the weather. Talk.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Be present with each other.
the impartiality then, because we've done it to two generations, and they don't know the other side that you and I know.
Mm.
What are they going to do? Like, people are waking up now. So the system that's meant to save us doesn't work or didn't work to the way that I thought it was going to go. So I'm waking up a little bit. How do I? And then they get daunted. How do I? Because it is like when the shields are lifted back and you see society for what it really is, not what we say it is, but what it really is.
Yeah.
They don't come together.
No, that's right.
So we've dealt for the best part of 30 years, I guess, in kumbaya. Another theory that I have is that the reason that we've done that is because our values have been full. So we've got distracted and we've divided our community over crazy stuff, sex, men and women competing.
Yeah.
Where did we get that wrong? Like,
Mm.
we are better together, male and female, but let's not go down the outliers of sexual privation. That they can do whatever the hell they like. But
That's right.
on the whole, men and women do very, very well together in a traditional family unit where the man is the protector and provider and the woman is the nurturer and raises the kids and looks after the home. Now, we can argue forever and a day that, that's not the modern way and da da da. It works. Like, regardless of what anybody says, it works. And men and women are not the same. We
That's
can do
true.
we can do different things, and you can have this super super strong woman and a super. It's all outliers. The only reason we've got focused on that is because our bellies are full. They don't
Yeah.
worry about sub-Saharan Africa because they're too busy worrying about what they're going to eat next, where
Yeah.
they're going to sleep next. Are they going to die during the night because somebody robs them for the pittance that they've got? We've been for 75 years since World War II. We've been shielded from that.
Yeah. It's funny when you talk about the gender thing and the traditional nature of it working well. I always think about my chickens. And I know I'm such a basic little poppet, but I live in suburbia. I'm not supposed to have a rooster. And of course I did for a while. And what I noticed is that my chickens laid more eggs because they were being chickens. And I sometimes use that little story when I have clients who are talking, because I'm a therapist, um, talking about issues with their partner, because really the job of the rooster is to protect, and they don't necessarily have to lay the eggs. That's not their job. They just
No,
wander around
no.
looking tough and strong so that the chickens can do their thing.
We keep chickens, obviously. We've
Yeah.
got, I live on, just so that your viewers know, we've got
Mm.
13 acres of really bad ground, coffee rock, slab granite, lots of trees, rough rock, can't run animals, but we keep chickens and we've got a garden and that sort of
Yeah.
stuff. We lost two roosters a couple of months ago to foxes, but
Yeah.
we lost two roosters to foxes. Now, what a lot of people don't realise, the reason we lost two roosters is because the roosters ran to the front and were jumping all over the front of because I actually saw the second one go.
Yeah.
Um, they're at the front, in front of the thing, trying to scare this thing off, knowing fully well they're screwed.
Yeah.
It's their role. They didn't think about it. They didn't have to have a discussion about it. Nobody had to write them a memo about it. God did that. He imprinted it in. This is your role. So you don't have to lay an egg and you get to, have fun with these chickens, but when the time comes, you're sacrificial.
You protect.
It sounds really basic, but I honestly believe that is a man's role. Why do you think men die in wars? Women and men are different. Our thought processes are different. The way that we use logic and common sense are different. And we can talk about what we think it should be.
Mm.
And then you get into your faith. So then there's the concept of nurture versus nature and what God intended and stuff like that. And that's what everybody's personal view is.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the purpose of life is experience and procreation.
Yeah.
So for procreation, like, don't get me wrong, all your IVF and ICF and all of that crazy shit that they do, the CRISPR, and they can make this and stuff like that, you need a man and you need a woman. Like, we can artificially do it and stuff like that, but that's not the way it's meant to be done. You need a man and a woman, and they need to come together and they need to stay as a unit, because that's how you get good kids. We can talk it up, like we can talk about it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
There's what we think should be, and then there's what is.
Yeah.
And that discrepancy between what, like in our lifetime, we've seen, like, we would, like, the thought of a flying car was, late 70s, early 80s. Whoa, well, now we've got flying cars. They make flying cars. We realise that they're stupid. We realise that they're pointless. We realise that the technology is unsafe. So we haven't gone down that path. But we're still going with solar and wind. That's a great idea. Make it make sense.
Yeah.
Make it make sense.
Yeah.
And I think, like, people that are listening to you, and look, they're going to disagree with me, and I'm not right. In fact, I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm 100% wrong.
Mm.
But 50 years now, and you say this is going to happen, and they say, oh, that'll never happen, and it just did.
Mm. Yeah. We are seeing a lot of changes. I mean, natural disasters, they're happening. There do seem to be more occurring. Maybe it's just about the media, but I don't know. Either
Well,
way, we
really
still
great
need.
rabbit hole we could go down on that, but
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
not. But I think we've always had natural disasters. I mean, it's very interesting. So 2 days ago, I think it was, New South Wales started load shedding power because we had a day of 35 degrees. So that's national news. It runs around the country, and people start to ask sensible questions. It's 2024. It's not summer. We're not in summer.
Mm.
We've had 40-degree days. Dude, we used to go to the swimming pool as kids, come home with blisters, sunburn blisters, like the size of 50-cent coins, because we weren't sun smart, right?
Yeah.
It was 45 degrees, and we're lying in the sun. That was 40 years ago. Now we're load shedding in Australia, where people go, oh, we had a bushfire. Like, dude, it's Australia. We burn every year. And if we don't burn, we flood.
Yeah.
I think it's the perception and the fact that we throw it on the news, and the fact that most of our society now lives in a city, and they've never actually got dirt on their hands. So they don't realise the cycle. Is the world getting hotter? Possibly. Is it getting colder? Possibly. It's a living organism. Things change.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And a lot of people, I think, are losing the war on drugs. We've been fighting the war on drugs, a war, like a really, really expensive war for my whole life. And you can buy better heroin, cheaper, on the streets of Melbourne today than you can in 1978. That's insane.
Let's not go down the drug road.
No, but what I'm saying is that that's just one.
Yeah.
And there's 100 examples like that. Medicare.
Mm.
Bob Hawke told us 1% of your wage, you'll never pay another medical bill.
Oh.
Hang on. I remember that. I was there. People are waking up.
Yeah.
We're sending all of this money because the war in Ukraine is such a big thing. Yeah, okay, cool. And I get it, dude. Any war's bad. But we shouldn't be encouraging it for one, because we've forgotten our lessons of our past. But the second one is that, hang on, we're sending how many billions of dollars? But I nearly ripped the front wheel off my car because I hit a pothole on National Route 1, it's the Australian National Highway, and it nearly tore the front of my car off. That doesn't compute. We're sending billions to a wars, but we can't fix our own roads.
Yeah. Or keep women over 50 in housing. I mean, there's a massive issue with that now. But it's crazy, crazy. So let's talk about this whole, being prepared for challenging situations. So in the home, what, I mean, is there certain knowledge that we need to have? Are there certain resources, special tools? What's a list of things that we should have or could have to get us over the hump should one occur?
Okay. So with I call it triage. With any
Mm,
scenario, I go in, what's the we can't do without. So the first thing that you can't do without is water.
yeah.
So you need to take care of your water, and that's drinking water. I'm not talking about washing your socks. I'm not talking about cleaning the car. I'm talking about water that you can drink. Sole survival. So you have to find what now, and it has to be unreliant on anything else. So it's either bottled water, or we've got a number of big tanks.
Mm,
I can't pump the water from the tanks, but I can walk to the bottom of the tank and turn open the tap.
yeah.
So there's two things that looking at preparedness. You can do it on a small scale where I'm just going to ride out, the 2 week powers out,
Mm-hmm.
and you start at the top. Water, shelter. Shelter, actually, I put shelter above food, funnily enough, because you can live for a month without food. It's going
Yeah.
to be uncomfortable, but you can live for a month without food. If the weather's bad in Australia, like if we're either hot or cold, you've got a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
You know, so whatever you are in your priorities, but I go water, shelter, food, and then I go back to water again. So I've got water for the 2 weeks or whatever period of time I'm looking to combat.
Yeah.
How do I get past that? So one of the things that we're doing for that personally, yes, we've got water tanks, we've got a lot of storage on the ground, but we can't pump it into the house. So we're putting in a tank on a stand that's 9 meters tall so that I can gravity feed the house, and then I'm going to rig up a solar pump, because solar's not bad. It's just not good enough to do what we think it can do.
Yeah.
It'll run a little pump on a pressure valve, fill it up, so I'll always have water in the house.
Yeah.
So you've got to get your priorities, and then you address it to the level of the threat that you believe that you're going to perceive, and then you can add to that.
Yeah. Okay. So water, shelter, food. So if we were
Well,
looking at, go on.
the other thing is too, so that's to keep life.
Yeah.
Now you can personalise it a little bit. Like, so somebody who's a diabetic,
Mm,
right? You better have your insulin.
yeah.
Where are you going to keep it? Because I don't know, is insulin temperature sensitive? Because now your fridge. Because it's no good having. Do you see what I mean? You have to look at,
Yeah.
how am I going to keep this in the condition that it has to be in, to the point where it's usable in the worst case scenario.
Yeah. Mm,
Now, it's very daunting, but you're not curing cancer. You're not going for Armageddon. You're going for, this is going to make me, like, the power's out for a week. Okay, it's going to be a pain, but I've got food, I've got drink, and I've got a roof over my head.
yeah.
Now we can look at the rest of the shit. Now I can worry about charging a phone and all that other crap.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think a lot of people need to do with the predators is they're waking up to the fact that they say, "Oh, I've got money. I've got money. Yeah, you've got money in the bank." Well, in that
Mm,
case, people are waking up to the fact, if you can't put your hand on it, you don't actually have it. You may own it, But ownership and having are two completely different things. Because when the power's off, I don't give a shit. You can have $400 million in the bank, but you're not getting anything of my food. You can promise me whatever the hell you like. But if you can't give me something tangible, we're not playing.
Yeah. That's right.
We're waking up to the illusion.
Yeah. So basically, you're saying that if money is going to be necessary, you need to actually have
Well,
it available to you.
how far down the rabbit hole do you want to go? So
Not too far, but just far enough.
that ties into another one. So one of the things that we're being told at the moment, and like the narrative is driving down the throat, is that we've got to get rid of cash. We've got to cash is a bad thing. We've got to get rid of cash. You know, cash is messy, it's expensive, it's dirty, it's all of these things. Okay? So we get rid of cash. So we make our only modicum of trade electronic in today's society. If you can't see a problem with that, like as a person, if you can't see an issue with that, the thing that gets me about it is that, so I no longer work in the electrical field because I can't do DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Because whereas the principle I don't disagree with, the application and the way we've applied it is a farce. It's destroyed the working environment for most of the workers. It really has. I don't care what anybody says. Been there, done that, 35 years in. And it's an unpopular opinion and it's mine. And I have a right to have it. But I've seen, so I removed myself. I was in a lucky position. I was able to remove myself from that system, which I don't believe works. But a lot of people are trapped in that and they see it. And that gives rise to another layer of fear because they realise that the system that they're in is self-perpetuating. Once you're in, it keeps you there. You need to have this. So you need to go into debt. So you need to have this. So you need to do this. To be here, you know, you must meet this criteria. You know, you've got to have this ticket, this thing, be clean, never da 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 da. But that person over there who's standing right beside me in the queue doesn't because of race, religion, gender.
Or something else entirely, yeah. Yes, and that whole thing about feeling caught, I mean, a lot of that's driven by consumerism, isn't it? I mean, we've got to have the latest car. I mean, I've got a car that's 10 years old. It ticks along beautifully.
Well,
Why would I change it?
we as a society have made these things, right or wrong, whether we've been manipulated or wrong, but we've put onus on these. So I drive a 30-year-old car. I'm never going to show you a picture of it because it's a joke, but it goes and it takes me to the places that I need to go. But my friends have all got, you know, brand new cars. But when I raise, you know, like, what are we going to do about this? Like when we're out in the middle of nowhere and this sensor goes, what happens to your car? Well, it shuts down. What happens to your car? I don't have the sensor. Now, I got pulled over by a uniformed revenue taker, and the only thing that he could go off at me for was because my wife was sitting in the passenger seat with her feet on the dash, and he had to go at me. He said, "Oh, tell her to take her feet off the dash." I said, "Why?" He said, "Oh, if the airbag goes off." I said, "What airbag?" The GQ airbag. The only airbag in here's me.
Do you have a giggle?
Afterwards, not at the time because I was really, really peeved because he pulled me over for something stupid. And again, we can get into that. You know, like the police, we're in the middle of a huge advertising campaign in Western Australia about the police telling us, and it's all about like, we're going to stop you because you touched your phone, you know, you spared, you looked at us funny, and it's because we're trying to save your life. Okay, you can keep telling me that bullshit, but I'm not believing it. You're doing it because you want money. That's it. Because a policeman, like where we grew up, Don Mason was the cop there for at least a decade,
I don't know that we should actually drop names like that, but never mind.
A police officer that was a local officer was the local officer for well in excess of a decade, which means he was part of the community, which means
Yeah,
he was given a mandate to apply the law in a way that best served the community. And he did. I can give you a number of examples that he did. That
yeah,
doesn't happen today because what are we looking for? What can I ping you for that gives me
yeah,
money?
yeah, yeah.
So,
That's right. And there was an understanding about who the people were, what was going on.
absolutely.
There was care and concern.
But there was an unwritten social contract about it. Like, so look what we've just done as a nation to our soldiers. Our national broadcaster falsified information to call our soldiers into
Mm,
disrespect. What have we lost? Like, where's the honor? Like, we honored our soldiers in the past because like men, they went to the front to die for us.
mm,
Now, whatever goes there, we can get into another story. But World War One, those guys actually believed that they were saving the planet, and to a certain degree, they were. In
mm,
today's day and age, like, he's going to sign up to go to the Ukraine just to die for what? For what? Like,
mm,
the information about the whole war is there. Go and look at it. Like, don't listen to me. Just go and
mm,
read.
mm,
Holy
mm.
God.
Yeah.
The discrepancies, and that's throughout the broader community now, is
Yeah.
that because information, and this is where things like the misinformation bill are so glaringly obvious what they're trying to do, is because this freedom to go and get information from any source, you can't have that
Mm,
as a government or as a controlling body. You can't have the free information because then people are informed. And when people are informed, they'll call you out for your lies.
mm. Yeah.
Can't have
Tricky.
it.
Yeah. So all of that that free access to information does make people question. I think that's where the uncertainty. I mean, one of the things that I see is more generalized anxiety in people as a rule. And I guess that whole thing about preparedness, being able to, ride the bumps or something bigger if something bigger should occur, is that it gives people that sense of, oh, what's the right word?
Control.
Um,
Control.
exactly.
You have some semblance of control. And I guess this is the core. I guess we've done full set. This is the core, is that having the sense that, hang on, I got this. I don't need to rely on whoever or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and again, I think a lot of it's gender biased. I don't know what the terminology is, but men seem to, because we think in a linear scale. So
Yeah.
I'm hungry, therefore I need to eat, therefore I'm not hungry anymore, therefore I can forget about it. You know, we very linear. Women, more feelings, more emotive, and every thought's connected to every thought, which is really fantastic. That's why we love women so much. But it's crap in a shit situation. So when things go wrong, you cannot have that style of thought process. Well, it breeds anxiety. Let's just put it that
Mm.
way. Too much uncertainty.
Yeah.
Whereas if you've taken care of a preparedness from a man's point of view, well, again, we're getting into sexist language. I don't care.
Yeah.
Whatever. From a
Yeah.
male-dominated perspective, that common sense linear approach is, I don't have to worry about water because I've taken care of that
Yeah.
in these scenarios. For the next
Mm.
2 weeks, I know. So that helps me mitigate my anxiety.
That's right.
Because
It's a very left-brained approach. It's like dot, 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 ticking the boxes. Mm. Yeah.
and it's funny because uh, again, your viewers don't know. My wife and I, Jasmine, have been married for over 25 years now. No, we're just coming up for 25. So it's quite a lot of time. And we don't think about this the same way. My wife had no concept of prepping before we got together.
Yeah.
And we have, over the years, we have had different ideas on how far. But it's a balancing act. One, like when the kids were small and the mortgage was needing paid, I didn't have a lot of money. Did we do some prep? Yeah. How did we do it? Well, things like firewood. So
Mm.
we live in an area where you can still burn firewood. I must be sitting on 30 ton of firewood because that was within my control.
Yeah.
So I went out and I cut 30 ton of firewood sitting
Mm,
just outside the door. So I don't have to, like the power goes off. Okay, cool. I'm luckily enough in the position that we've got a generator. When the money was good, we don't have to run a lead. I put a switch. We've hardwired it incrementally
mm,
because and I'm quite an anxious person because I overthink everything.
mm,
Um, I can section that off. I can put that in a box and I know that it's in the box and there's a label on the box that tells me, I've got 2 weeks worth of, so I don't have to
mm.
worry about it. Then I'll worry about the next thing on my list or the next thing on my priority.
Yeah, yeah,
And that helps me with my, the world's going to end tomorrow.
yeah, yeah. So for people who are just beginning to look at this concept, and I mean, one of the things that you and I have talked about is this is about being responsible for myself
Yeah.
or being responsible for the people that are in my care or under my protection. So it's an act of maturity.
Honor.
It's not, yeah, it's not about fear mongering or anything
Yeah.
like that. It's just about taking care of business and making sure that we're looking after the people that we're looking after. So even, for somebody like myself who just is responsible for myself, I'm then not a burden on someone else. So we know that's really what it's about.
But that's a
We
generational thing. So you have to remember that our generation thinks like that because we don't want to be a burden,
mm,
right? We've got I see glimmers in the latest, what do they call them, the Zoomers, I think, the 20-year-old. I see because the millennials got sold a different lie to the lie that we were sold. They embraced it 100% and it didn't work at all. Like all the stupid stuff's just come to the forefront. So the next generation, the Zoomers, like can see the fuck ups that the generation before made. They're still
mm,
making a lot of them, but more of them are asking questions. But they've never been self-reliant. They've never had to be.
mm,
They've been told their whole lives that they're special, they're incredible, they're amazing, um, they're entitled to this, that, and the next thing. They're going to get, go to a lot of lies, and
mm,
it's very, very blatant today. And that's where a lot of the discrepancy comes in, is because everybody's so narcissistic. Yeah, but I don't have water. Well, did you put water? Yeah, but I don't have water. But did you put some away for future? No, no, no. But I need it today. And again, it's a societal thing. I think a lot of it came from this blind embracing of technology for the sake of technology.
mm.
It's like some of the discrepancy we get around artificial intelligence today. You don't have to look very far. There's a very real and tangible opinion that says that we've gone too far already. We're already in danger. And we see that, like the greater community sees this. The news can be telling you, oh, Elon Musk is such a bad person. He's da 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 da. Okay, cool, cool. Or Trump, even better. Trump's Hitler.
Mm.
60% of the people in his country, 60% say he's not. And you're still screaming that he is. I don't know, you know?
Yeah, interesting. It's yeah, challenging times and things are shifting.
Very.
So
And the old systems are failing. So globalization's over.
that's right. I've just recently had a broken bone in my foot, so I've had the interesting experience of dealing with the medical system and seen that, you mentioned Medicare before about we pay a percentage and we'll never pay another dollar. Uh, I don't think I'm the only person who's discovered that's not quite correct, but so things are changing, as you said earlier. People are seeing that.
It's, it's not just that, Karen. They're not just that it's not working. Look, they made us get private health insurance, and now that's not paying for this. Like, talk about
Mm,
a moving goalpost.
mm, yeah,
It's not just that the systems are failing; it's like the second tier systems are failing, and people are seeing that, and they're going, well, "Hang on,
yeah, yeah. And what do we do? So sometimes when there's so much, as you said earlier, it can get overwhelming. And I mean, that's part of the reason for us to have this chat is like, how do we address these really big concepts, these really challenging things, and move it into a space where we can start to deal with things in a step by step way. So,
Yeah, yeah,
which is
fantastic.
which is what you were saying before, the
Oh,
obvious things: water,
probably not.
shelter, food.
Yeah, I think people are waking up to the fact that if you look at it, because all of our problems are huge.
Mm,
They're monstrous. The war in Ukraine, millions of people are dying. The war in the Middle East, hundreds of thousands of da da da. It's daunting. We
yeah.
can't do that as an individual. I can't do anything about that. So I'm stripped of any power. And the stripping of the power is the illusion because I do
Yes.
have power.
Yeah.
And what people like, well, arrogant, what I believe is if I act with honor at my little level, if I
Yeah.
change stuff at my little level, and I act with honor at my little level, nothing else, people can't say that I didn't have a go. You know what I mean?
Mm,
I
mm.
take responsibility. Nobody takes accountability and responsibility for their own actions. And with men, when we do that, we get a dopamine hit. I don't know what it is because
Yeah.
we're like Pavlov's dogs. We are very simple creatures. People dress it up and it's crap. We are simple. A woman that treats us nice, is kind to us, is good with her kids, and is a friend, gives me peace more than she gives me da da da, is gold. And real men see that. We will do it. Why do you think we die in wars? It's not that we're competing with women. We exalt women. We put
Mm,
women on a pedestal to look after, but we ask, demand maybe, I don't know, but we have to be treated. You can't kick us all the time. You
mm.
can't tell us that we're the problem of everything
Yeah.
and then expect us to fix anything
Mm.
because we men can sit in a room and do literally nothing. Women can't understand that. That a man in downtime, that's it. All the boxes are back in the shelves. There's nothing going on. We put all our thought because, and this is another thing I think that's very important that we need to accept in human nature. Women's thought process is like a ball string. Every thought, every impulse, every emotion is connected to everyone, and that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful thing. But when you're dealing with people's feelings and how your kids are emotionally and stuff like that, let's be honest. To a greater degree, men, we don't care. Do you have food? Do you have shelter? Do you have love? Do you have water? Is everything put together? And will it be there tomorrow, the day after? Will you get to the point where I can die and you will survive?
Yeah.
And see, we've forgotten that.
Mm.
We've forgotten that. That's our whole role. And that's the reason why you'll see things on the internet. The guy that's going home after 48 hours, he's rat shit tired. He's been taxed out the arse. He's working. And he's crying because his daughter's standing at the door every day when he gets home to welcome him. I'm welling up with tears just talking about it. We've forgotten that.
Yeah.
That is so fundamental. So we dress it up as, boys can be girls. Bullshit. Bullshit. It's all bullshit.
Yeah.
Men and women.
Yeah.
The preparedness comes from we suffer from anxiety, whether we recognize it or not, because we're hardwired to protect and provide.
Yeah.
All right. So if you're not fulfilling that rule, what do you think men are walking around topping themselves, jumping off bridges, fucking getting stuffed up on drugs and stuff like that? It's because they've lost their honor, the purpose, the real purpose, not the bullshit purpose that we talk about.
Purpose is a very, very integral thing to our mental health. There's no doubt about that. And yeah,
And
it's
and
it's
it's
it's a key thing.
and it's funny. So for your listeners, because I'm a hypocrite, total hypocrite. My wife still works in the mining industry and earns mining industry money. I work now with 2 trades and 4 Cert 4s and 35 years experience around the world. I work as a casual farmhand. One of the reasons I do that is that I can't go back to my trades and do that job and feel like I am acting in an honourable way. My job as a farmhand I get to act, and I'm working for the government, which is unusual. Shouldn't have said that. Anyway, um, they give me a task, and because I am the way that I am, they leave me alone, and I get the task done, and they're very, very happy about the way I get the task done. And I said, "You've learnt the secret. You give me a job, and then you go away. You give me the respect that I deserve as a 56-year-old dual tradesman who's been around the world and done stuff to, you know, level out a pad to put a water trough on without some 12-year-old child telling me that I didn't do a JHA. This is the concept.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, we've made certain scenarios in industry, I believe, unsafer by making them safer.
Mm.
Because we've dumbed it down and we've made it so safe that the morons survive. And
Actually, it's interesting. Sorry for cutting you off. It's interesting that you say that because I think that's true. In nature, those that don't have the smarts to survive the tricky situations
run away.
actually are gone. And so it's only the ones that are the high performers that survive. And that's natural selection.
Well, I have a theory to how we ended up in this scenario
I
across the
just,
West.
I'm just realizing how long we've been chatting.
Doesn't matter, you can rip it apart later.
All right.
I don't know about you, I'm quite enjoying it. Do you want to
Yeah.
stop?
Yeah, no, that's fine. We'll go for a little longer and then we might wrap it and
Yeah,
get together again and
yeah, cool.
continue the conversation.
Yeah. What was the point that I was just trying to make? You've thrown me now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Ah, it's all good.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I actually mentioned about natural selection.
oh, so when a lot of the stuff that I believe is not working well
Mm,
in today's society raised its head, I believe the reason a lot of it got through was people, practical people. Is that arrogant? I don't know. People that deal in tangible stuff, not theories,
yeah.
were busy. We were busy. We were raising kids. We were paying mortgages. We were working 80 hours a week. We were holding down 2 jobs, and when somebody said, "Oh, we're going to let a woman," oh, whatever, like, dude, I'm busy. I've
Mm,
got shit to do. I've got a
mm,
family to raise.
mm.
I've got responsibilities. I don't have the headspace to deal with your, purple head brigade. That was our fault because the purple head brigade got in, and then they got into the positions because we were too busy where the metal hits the meat. We were making shit work. We were down in the sewers digging poo. We're digging post holes. We're putting up fucking power lines. We're not worried about, whether a girl can do what a bloke can do. And when they turned up on the jobs, we were just like, all right, it's just another thing that we got to deal with. And we didn't jack up enough. Well, they're running the show now. And the fact that it doesn't work, they will have, like, the Green New Deal. They're driving us into the ground. We're stripping off the tops of national park mountains to put in a wind turbine that's going to last 10 years.
Mm,
Normal people are starting to ask these, like, what?
mm.
This doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't. And there's so many issues around, what that does to nature. I mean, nature's been around a long time. We've got to protect that.
And the strong men, or the men, I will say the strong men, the men that are strong in their sexuality, let's go that way. I don't know. It's probably the most politically incorrect thing to say, and I really don't give a shit. I don't care anymore.
Mm,
But we were too busy doing practical stuff at the time, so that these people got in, and now they're telling us things like a boy can take a drug. Just no, before he takes a drug, he can decide that he's a girl. He can discuss it with his teacher, which used to be an honourable position. They are going to encourage him, but not tell the parents because this boy's got rights. But what? None of this makes any sense. Like a
There's
parent, their
I
kids.
I'm really mindful of how that is a really big topic all of its own. That's a really
Well,
big.
all of them are, and that's the
Yeah,
trouble. It's all, yeah,
yeah.
and keeping me
It
focused is impossible.
it's it is very difficult to separate these things because they're all parts of keeping the community cohesive, because when the family unit is challenged, it challenges the fabric of the community. I mean,
Well,
but I guess what I'm trying to say is I think that something that topical, that blow upable, is probably worth us talking about in a separate conversation, because it's,
right, and again, it's only one.
yeah,
It's
it's just
only one
one thing.
of
Yeah.
the things that let's call them challenges
Mm,
that people in modern society, and I mean all people, regardless of whether you agree with me or not,
mm,
doesn't matter.
mm,
You are facing the same challenges that I am. I went to buy a packet of mince pies. I'm a sucker for the mince pie.
mm.
They're $5.50. 2 years ago, they were $2.50. That's fact.
Yeah.
You can't argue that.
True.
So they can tell us all the bullshit they want in the world. Diesel's $1.75. 3.5 years ago, I would drive on the way to Perth and I would pick it up at 85 cents a litre.
Yeah.
It's a fact.
Mm,
My wage hasn't gone up 50% or 100%
yeah.
in 2 years.
That's right. It's now I'm going to try and bring us back on topic, okay? Because we've been chatting for an hour and a half, basically. Um, and although we are scintillating conversationalists, we probably need to sort of put a point to it. The pointy end, as in the dot. Um, what you're talking about there, the cost of living, is just another reason why we need to look at that preparedness. So, things like having a vegetable garden. I mean, when we grew up as kids, everybody had a veggie garden in the backyard pretty much. And we've lost those. Well, I haven't, you haven't, but many people actually don't know how to do that anymore.
So one of the questions that you asked me earlier, and I'll go back to it, was what resources.
Mm,
So what I found personally, other than my life experience, and I had a lot to do with older people like Mrs. Barton and stuff like that, so I saw it as a kid, was YouTube, especially around depression, people that survived the depression. Because a lot of the modern prepping is modern as in you got to buy this, you got to buy that, you got to buy this. If you go back to the depression and you look at what they did, they had behaviors. So that's how I got into canning, which
hmm
is putting low acid foods such as meat into bottles in a way that makes it shelf stable. So you don't need to refrigerate,
Yeah.
right? So I learnt that by reading books and YouTube. Um, most of the prepping that I've done, and this is where the discrepancy for people that are just starting to get into it, look at it from a point of view, can I do it with electricity? Can I do it without electricity? And what I mean is, can I do the processing? Can I do the storing? Can I do the da da da? Do I need electricity or don't I? And that'll give
Yeah.
you an indication of how good a system that's going to be. Because if it
Yeah.
requires electricity at the storage stage, it's no good to you.
Yeah.
It's one of the first things that you're going to be combating against, because it's
Mm,
one of the most fragile things in the infrastructure that keeps us alive at the moment in
yeah.
today's society.
Yeah.
So if we'd have gone back 150 years, it would have been coal gas
Yeah.
in the UK. That's what I
Mm,
mean. So today, electricity is the thing, but it's incredibly fragile.
yeah.
We don't
Yeah.
like the veneer. I think that's the thing. The veneer between what we think is advanced Western society and what could happen really quick. Again, look at the UK.
Yeah.
That didn't take long.
Yeah. Mm,
Um, and when you start small, the reward is small, but it encourages you to do a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. And
yeah.
then you get to the point where it actually becomes fun.
Yeah.
Believe it or not. Jasmine and I were in a certain chain the other day, and they had tins tomatoes at 80 cents. We bought everything that they had, everything.
Oh,
We
wow.
walked with like 7 slabs of tin can, and we were laughing about it. And people go, I now have probably 5 years worth of canned tomato, and I started by buying an extra can,
Yeah.
and it's a fun thing.
Mm.
Like, joking with my wife, she comes home and there's 2 slabs of Spam sitting on the kitchen bench, and she said, "You couldn't help yourself, could you?" And I was like, "Nah."
I think some people get a bit funny about that. Um, you know, I went into the supermarket the other day because I haven't been in for a while, and there were empty shelves. Oh, look, I'm talking too much now. Um, but and I said to the guy, I said, because it looked very COVID-esque, empty
Yeah,
shelves. I said to the fellow, I said, "Oh, is something going on? It's surprising." And he said, "Oh, didn't you know there's a transport strike? Their drivers are on strike." And he said to me, "Don't panic buy, don't panic buy." And I said, "Oh, no, I'm not in a panic. No problem." But the staff there are concerned because people panic buy and then it knocks out supplies for everybody else. But I guess what you're talking about is just as a matter of course in your regular life, when there's a special or when there's an opportunity, you buy extra. So it's not knocking it out for other people. There is always enough. You're just buying extra each time. So it's not like you're taking away from someone else. Because I think
no,
that's what people get into.
yeah. So the difference between what we do and panic buying is you're buying the stuff and you're buying everything when everybody wants it today.
Mm,
I'm buying the shit when nobody wants it.
yeah.
But like supermarkets don't put shit on special because they're thinking of the community.
Yeah.
Like they're getting rid of that tomato because they tried to sell it at $2.50 a can. They couldn't sell enough of them. They've been sitting there for too long, so fuck them off at a cheap price, right?
Mm,
So I don't agree with that side
yeah.
of that argument.
Mm,
And of course, what I do eliminates panic buying. It protects you against. There's no need to panic buy. So
exactly.
and like when the kung fu flu hit and toilet paper, like there's a level of retardation I can't understand. People were hoarding the last part of the process and not doing anything about the first part of the process. So they're what, and this is another thing that you get to with prepping. It's part of the mindset, right? You need to buy products that you're going to use, that you use now, because
Yeah.
it's no good buying Indian nan breads that will last for 100 years if you don't like them or you've
Yeah.
never eaten.
Mm,
And the second part of it is if you've got a supply of stuff, you don't feel the urge to go and do a panic buy. Or if you think, oh, maybe I'm a little bit down in spam or something and it's a panic buy situation, I'm only going to buy half a dozen tins because I've already got 5 at home.
yeah, that's right.
What
Yeah.
happens is fear kicks in modern
Yeah.
society, which happens all the time, and your viewers will be aware of it. There's hence the reason they're watching,
Yeah.
and they go, oh, it's here.
Mm,
So now I'm going to throw money at it, and I'm just going to grab because they're grabbing that. So I'm going to grab baby formula because it's hot,
mm,
because I watched the YouTube thing and it says it's high in fat and it's really good in protein and it'll keep you alive. Yeah, but it tastes like shit and you're never going to use it. But you've just bought it all. So now
yeah.
3 kids starve because they're giving them cow's milk because they can't get the formula that you hoarded.
Yeah.
Where's the
Yeah.
honour?
Yeah,
Where's
that's right.
where's the community responsibility?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm the opposite. I'm the guy that they come to because they can't get. Could you spare me because I need it because of?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Right. Okay. A very good weaving, meandering
Probably too easy
conversation.
what you want, but it's an interesting concept to start with.
Yeah.
Um, you I don't know if you'll be able to pull some balls out of that, but have a review, see what you want, see what you can use or what you can't use, and we can revisit. We'll just go back and
Yeah. At some point in time, I think we'll have another conversation because I think, honestly, we'll just leave it as it is because it's interesting and people will take what they want from it, and that's
And
been good. Now,
that's the other thing too, Karen, is that like people have to be prepared to take the information. Information is just information.
mm,
And my point of view is just my point of view, and it really doesn't matter. If people aren't prepared to take what we've put out, well, tough.
no problem.
Yeah.
No
And that's
problem.
that's a part of my views is that in modern society we need to let the dead, and it's not we need to stop going out for the outliers, and we need to look at the bulk of the community. The government, we're serving two ends of the community and not the bulk of the community. The bulk of the community sits in the middle,
Mm,
and we're too busy just worrying about what we're going to eat next, how we're going to keep a roof over our head. I'm not worried about your gender. I don't give a shit about your pronouns. Do whatever the hell you like, but
mm,
just let me look after mine. That's where the bulk of Australians are.
yeah.
The trouble is the media is controlled, government is so obviously controlled, and it's not democratic in any way, shape, or form. It doesn't matter how you dress it up. And the systems in place aren't there for the community, and it's glaringly obvious.
Yeah. All right. Good chat. I'm going to press the button.
Press the button.
All right. It's been real.
I sure will.
We will chat again.
All right.